First, they'll spotlight me. Hello, everybody. Welcome to everybody. Welcome to those who are members of Ezra-Habonim, Niles Township, and Kilat Shalom, and others are on as well, which I'm very pleased that you're here. All are welcome, and I think others are coming on as well as we are just preparing right now. So, on October 7th. This October 7th, last week, just a week ago tonight, there was a very powerful community-wide commemoration of or anniversary of October 7th, 2023, the one-year anniversary of October 7th, and our congregations co-sponsored an event that was held at Temple Beth Israel down the block on Dempster, and had a little program connected to it as well. And I met Yonatan Alfi there, an acquaintance of Beth Farber, of her friends, a cousin of her friends. And we had a brief but nice conversation after the program. And I thought that Yonatan might be available. Yonatan is Israeli and served in the West Bank, which we'll talk about, for 170 days since October 7th. 170, that's a lot of days. And that's like one of the fronts of this war that we don't hear too much about, actually. Sort of focus so much on Gaza and then the Houthis and now up in the north and everything else. But there's a lot going on in the West Bank as well. So we'll talk to Yonatan about that in this conversation. I have some questions that Yonatan and I sent to discussed earlier today, and so we'll go through those questions, and there should be time perhaps for others to ask questions as well. So Baruch haba, Yonatan Alfi. Glad you are here. And Toda Rabbi, thank you so much for being here. So first, just tell us where you live, what you do, how old you are, just a little bit of introduction.
Well, hello everyone, and thank you very much for coming. My name is Yonatan Alfi. I am 27 years old. I study score and sound for film in Sapir College. I live in Sderot with my girlfriend. And what else? I am a freelance sound designer and composer for film and media for the last 3 years, and I love it very much.
So you compose music. You're a musician.
I am.
What are your instruments?
Well, originally I play guitar. I've started specializing in Middle Eastern instruments, such as oud, saz, and such, which are very much incorporated in Israeli media.
When you say Israeli media, just so I know we're going to get to the real topic, but when you say Israeli media, do you mean film and television? Is that what you're referring to primarily?
Yes.
Got it. Okay, got it. And you you live in Sderot now? Are you from Sderot originally?
I am from Omer. Omer is a town next to Beersheba. It's about 15 minutes from Sderot, but I have lived a large portion of my life in the Gaza envelope. I've done a pre-army program in Nahal Oz, and I lived there after my service for a year. And for the entirety of my college studying, I lived in Gevim. Gevim is another kibbutz in the Gaza envelope, the northern side.
Got it. So we've heard about the Gaza envelope for the last year. So geographically, what does that is that also like what known as the seal? It's like just sort of the perimeter around within Israel, just right around the border with Gaza. What constitutes the envelope?
I don't understand the question.
So what geographically, what is the Gaza envelope?
Well, quite literally, it's the field that surrounds the city of Gaza with a border which the closest point is about 3 kilometers, and that's Nahal Oz, the kibbutz I used to stay in.
Mhm.
And the farthest, I think about I'm not sure. That's the closest is 3 kilometers.
I see.
But
Okay.
it starts in the area of the city of Ashkelon, south of the city of Ashkelon, and it ends in the what we call the triangle, which is the triangle of Gaza, Egypt, and Israel.
I see. Like right there where they converge. I
Yes.
see. Okay. Okay, good. Thank you for that background. So where were you on the 7th of October? Where were you waking up that morning?
Um, okay, on the 6th, I'll add a bit. On the 6th, I was with my family in Omer. I was not supposed to be in my apartment in Gavim. I was spending my weekend with my family, and then I remembered that I need to grab grab a paper of mine that I was working on musical genres, and it
Hmm.
stayed on my computer in my apartment in Gavim. So I drove at this the evening of the 6th to continue work, and I decided to sleep there. I didn't want to drive at night.
Mhm.
I woke up in 6:28 to the sound of missiles. Now, I've been living in quite a while for quite a while in the Gaza envelope, so missile fire was not new to us. It is not. It didn't really alert us. I was alerted when I started hearing automated guns from two different directions. One from Sderot and the other from Mefalsim. Mefalsim is a kibbutz which is right on the other side from where my kibbutz was. Let's say Givim is in the center. Sderot was northeast to me, and Mefalsim is northwest. And I started getting messages from my friends and family that ask how am I doing, and telling me to stay in my protected area and lock my door and don't get out. I started receiving videos from my friends in Sderot that I know personally, and college friends that asked me how I was. And then the videos started to rush in from the Nova Festival
Mhm.
and from the city of Sderot. Uh, there were there were in a video I saw a white Toyota truck with Hamas soldiers, which are wearing a very distinct sign of the green handband on their heads and carrying AK-47s, spreading fire
Mhm.
wherever they wanted, wherever they wanted to, driving down the main road of the road, a road which I've walked in and jogged in for countless times. Uh, about about an hour and a half in, I've received my deployment message that told me that I should get to the West Bank and sign for equipment and become a soldier again.
Wow.
And they a lot of my friends So they came. Some of them were even able to come from Sderot to pick whatever they got, whatever clothes they had available, and drive through the fire. I wasn't able to. And my commander gave me a phone and asked me where I was, and I said that they're shooting outside and I can't get out.
Yeah, Yonatan, this is obviously very difficult to talk about. I can see that. I'm curious, have you told this, have you been told this story to others? Have you been able to share this, what you experienced that day?
I have. Yes, I have. I'm lucky. I'm very lucky to have a lot of family and friends who took care of me and made sure I was okay. Yeah.
It's still
It
hard to talk
just
about.
throws me back.
Yeah, I'm sure. So you were receiving messages and video messages as well, but also hearing it actually live. I mean, you could hear, you said, like the shooting. So you're actually receiving things via like social media and text or whatever, but also literally hearing some of this activity in neighboring vicinity, the areas. Is that correct?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. I heard it all. It went for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yeah.
I just, I'm a very lucky man to be able to withstand it all, and to say that I stand here and to know that my story didn't end yet.
Right. Your life story. Yeah.
Yeah.
You said that we had talked about you had friends at the Nova Music Festival?
I did. I had a very dear friend from my high school. He was called Yaniv Sarudi. He we have met very. I met him in high school, and he was very kind to me, and we became friends very fast. But he didn't do so well with the school system, so he left. The next time I saw him, he was on a commander's course. About 5 years later, I was so happy to see him again. And we've met a few times later. We lived in Tel Aviv, and I've found out a few days in after the 7th that he died. He was working in the Nova Festival, and he died rescuing people. He was driving people with his car to the main intersection out of the festival, and he was able to do two rounds of people. On the third one, they got him.
And he is your peer, your age.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nice.
I recently saw a bench that they made for him on the Nova site. And I visited and closed the circle.
Yaniv Saruti, is that correct?
Sarudi with a D. I can
With the
write it down.
Sarudi. Okay. So you were ordered to show up for duty in the West Bank or somewhere near the West Bank. Is that correct? And then you served there.
Yes. I arrived in Gush Etzion. Gush Etzion is an area of a lot of close Jewish and Arab settlements and villages, which there is a lot of tension between citizens.
Right. Okay, folks, just remember that you should be muted, please. So why were you asked to go there to Gush Etzion as opposed to somewhere else?
So I served my mandatory service in Kfir. Kfir is a unit that specializes in the areas of Judea and Samaria. The Gush Etzion is a main section who is very problematic, and because our unit is a very good unit that made a lot of achievements in all types of things, they put a lot of trust in us.
Right. When was last time before shortly after October 7th or on October 7th? When was the last time that you were there?
It was about, if I'm correct, about 1 year back.
Part of your
There's
service,
something like that.
part of your annual service?
Yes. We do a month of service every year.
Right, right. So when you get back to Gush Etzion, was that like on October 7th, October 8th? Like, was it that very day that you were actually back there? Um, and what were you expecting? How long did you think? I mean, how long did you imagine your life would be completely interrupted?
That is a question. We arrived there. When I arrived there, all my friends from my mandatory service were already there, already settled in, equipped on missions, and the spirits were very high. The will to do good was very high. We did not meddle with the question, how long will we be there? Our commander then, Matan, he told us that we will probably be the last ones to be replaced, because while the battle goes on in the south and in the north, our unit's supposed to stay in the West Bank, and on both other fronts, they're supposed to come in units and then replace. Am I understood?
Yes, but those will be sort of cycled in and out the other fronts, but not where
Yes.
you were, not in the Gush where you were.
Yes. Yes. And you asked me about what kind of mission was there. So the West Bank, the main fear was inspiration terror attacks. I'll explain it. Many people in the West Bank have relatives in Gaza. And once a man from the West Bank that has a family in Gaza hears that his family is wiped out, for an example, it might push him to the edge and make him decide that he has nothing to lose. And he might go to the nearest store and buy a knife and go to the nearest populated intersection and just kill everyone he sees. For an example.
Yeah. So you
One of the
were
main fears is that a 7th of October will be committed in the area of the West Bank. That's why I think a lot of the people in the government want to keep the West Bank monitored and militarized.
right. Right. So you said that when you first got there, everybody was, I forget what word you said something about doing good, like you just wanted to be there. You folks were feeling strongly, you and your fellow soldiers were feeling strongly about being there. Your morale was high. And is that something, Yonatan, that continued as time went on, did you feel like that was you were inspired and motivated to do the work that you had to do? Despite the fact, by the way, and I want to understand this too, that you were not expecting this. You are young adults start, really getting your careers, family lives, and everything settled in the world, in your lives. And yet here you were, very much disrupted. Maybe that's the wrong word for it. But was there any sense like, how long will this be going on? How long must I be here? Or were you really strongly motivated? Or both?
So, as I said, spirits were very high in the beginning,
Hmm.
and we received a lot of donations from citizens. They came and bought us food and tools, blankets, and socks and underwear.
Mhm.
They knew that people came from in the middle of doing whatever they were doing, and came in. We were starting to wear out, I'd say 2 months in, because a lot of people who have businesses needed to go home and take care of their businesses so they won't go bankrupt. Shorter, lesser people means harder shifts, a lot less time to sleep. And the tension became very high, and there were a lot of inconveniences between the commanders and the foot soldiers. Started to really wear us out,
Mhm.
and the question kept boggling our mind when we will leave. We heard a few rumors that we were leaving on January 26th. And just a few days before January 26th, they told us that we have another month. In the end, it was February.
Wow. And I just want to clarify for people. So you were there in total 170 days.
Yes, it was 140 in the first round and another 30,
Uh-huh.
just a few months next.
During that 140 days, did you go home at all?
Um, so after we settled in, after we grabbed the area, call it that, it took a long time. It took about a month and a half. And after we settled in, we were able to create an environment where we create replacing cycling of people coming in and people coming out to go home.
Mhm.
So it took about a month and a half till I could have gone every 11 days. I could have gone for a 3 days home. We
Mhm.
call it an 11-3.
Mhm.
And but I was actually very lucky because my girlfriend's family, and my girlfriend, because she couldn't stay in Sderot, she didn't feel safe. They went back to their home in Tzur Adasa. Tzur Adasa is a town that is about 35 minutes from Gush Etzion, and she was
Mhm.
with me through the whole of it.
Yeah, wow. Wow. So I'd like to um, ask you to clarify something, but if you don't want to talk about it for any reason, that's perfectly okay. But you said something about, I think you said grab the area or something like that. Grab something, like part of your mission was to obviously I mean, to settle things or secure things in these hot areas in the West Bank. So what does that mean? What were you actually doing? Again, if you feel comfortable answering that.
Um, Preventing terror attacks and preventing how do I call it? preventing arguments between Jewish and Arab citizens.
Mm-hmm.
They would happen a lot. Sometimes it would start from Arab citizens, sometimes from Jewish. And we are very well practiced in every type of any type of thing that might happen. We are trained to act when a foreign citizen walks up a hill to a settlement or a village. We are trained if a flock of people start coming to the intersection.
Mm-hmm.
We're just maintaining a safe environment for everyone who stay there.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We
Okay.
would occasionally do arrests, and sometimes scanning activities when we would, or where we would go and find hostile tools or weapons.
Mm-hmm.
And we would often find sometimes improvised guns that
Mm-hmm.
are wrapped in black sellotape in order to, they put the black sellotape because if we would find them, they could just bury it and it will still be able to function.
Right. Is I'm assuming that this is something that would happen from within the Arab community, but maybe also the Jewish community. I don't know.
Mostly the Arab.
Got it. But with the
And
provo
99%.
I see, gotcha. But that's the improvised guns. The provocations back and forth, they were more sort of started by also the Arab community or not necessarily?
Not necessarily. Sometimes it could be a group of youngster Jewish people, Israeli people, that a lot sometimes settlers would want to just go take trips on the hill or do this normal stuff, and we usually we have someone or someone who watches the area and can alert us. What would happen that we would be alerted and we'd go to see that it isn't hostile. If it was suspicious, we would grab information, and if not, we would just tell them to go away.
I see. Got it. Might seem like a silly question, but I just don't know. I mean, there are barracks for you Israeli soldiers in Gush Etzion. You had like you were saying in barracks for soldiers, guarded places where you could sleep at night.
Yes, that it was actually quite a consulting. I mean, consoling to know that I was quite in a safe place where I could have a routine, because the south is chaotic and the north is basically fighting air.
Right. Yeah.
And, the West Bank is controlled.
Right. So you could end your day, go to where you were staying, feel secure there, eat, sleep. Right. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Our service is very different in that matter, because a lot of probably other stories that you've heard from people who was in the south or in the north, they will describe war very differently. But
Right.
it's still necessary.
Yeah.
We believe in the cause.
Right. Right. So a couple questions. So firstly, I guess I'd like to get back to like how the commanding officers, or how the Army managed the sense of disappointment when you thought you were going to have a break on whatever January something, and then it was moved back. And you said the first couple months were pretty good in terms of the morale, but then it really started to deteriorate after that. Like how do, could be I imagine it could be discouraging, might be too weak a word. Maybe it's much more than discouraging. Like how did your fellow soldiers, how did the commanders deal with that situation? Okay.
We just did. We were educated from our mandatory service that sometimes things are just the way they are, and we can't let down the people that seek our protection,
Right.
and we just do what we can.
I see.
Sometimes we pay the price, but in the end, the job is done.
I see. You mentioned that Israeli civil society, Israelis really stepped forward and brought you underwear, socks, things that you needed because you had to so hastily, so quickly leave your regular lives, couldn't sort of pack what you needed. There's been talk here, particularly early in the war, that people were sending flashlights and all these other things, and there's a question that was sort of lingering in the American Jewish Avera, like the atmosphere of the world here, like why were you not equipped the way we would have expected soldiers, units to be equipped? Was that a fair challenge or question, or was it just the haste, the sort of emergency of this whole thing that just made it understandable that you wouldn't have everything that you would need as this war got underway?
Yes, it's a fair question. And I believe I have the answer. So I'll call it the advanced army equipment, the modern army equipment we know today. It started to flow in about the time when I was still in mandatory service. What you would do, you would finish your training of 8 months of basic training and advanced training, and then receive a package of professional equipment with a vest and then knee pads and a helmet and all the necessary accessories. I think that there isn't. I think that not everyone had that equipment because the mostly was just concentrated on the people who were still in mandatory service. And when the wars started around the south, the most of the good equipment that was in possession of the army flowed to the south. And it came to a point where the only equipment remaining was old equipment. When I say old, I mean this sort of equipment that you use in the beginning of your service, which is very unprotective, and with not a lot of ways to function during a exchanging of fire. But we did get a lot of donations that were specifically for us to buy war equipment, and so we have. And now it is a big question right now because a lot of people have their own personal equipment, and the army doesn't have places to store it.
Right.
So people carry their vests home.
Wow. Yeah. I don't know what to make of that. I really don't know how to understand that. Is that a lack of foresight by the army? Is it just like it's a complete emergency, something completely unexpected? So there's really no blame here. It's just trying to figure out something as we go along. Like it seems surprising that some of this would not have been for anticipated to some degree, because you're the ones who bear the
You are
brunt of
talking to
the.
a,
Go ahead.
yeah, you remember you were speaking to a foot soldier. I only know so much. I can't
Right.
really imagine what actually went on in the storage rooms and who participated in decision making. I just see what I
Right.
see.
Yeah, got you. Um, so a couple more questions, then we can open it up. And I just want everyone to know that again, these questions that I'm asking Yonatan, I did I did we did I did let him know that I'd be asking these, not all these questions, but most of these questions. And so I'm not trying to be particularly challenging, I'm just trying to understand. And I appreciate, Yonatan, your patience with with these questions. So one of the questions I sent you, and I sort of preface it saying this is a hard question. So I, you know, I hope that people understand I'm asking this question. Um, I hope you understand the spirit in which I'm asking this question. Um, so we don't really know how many non-combatants have died in Gaza, like people, civilians. We don't really know how many civilians have died in Gaza. Um, the numbers that the Hamas health ministry puts out are probably very much inflated, that they don't seem reasonable. But regardless, it's war. And I have a friend up in the north who's a lovely person. He was up in near Rosh Pinah, like in that area. And he's like he's a very sensitive person. You seem like a very sensitive man as well. And he's just understanding, like, the civilian deaths are a horror. It is, civilian Palestinian deaths is a horror. And he wishes it wouldn't happen, but this is a justified response to a horrific terrorist attack. So I'm wondering, he's around 50 years old, and you're 27. So I'm wondering, like, regardless of the numbers of non-combatants or civilians who've died, there's been tremendous destruction, obviously, in Gaza. Just talk about Gaza now. And I know you're in the West Bank. But do you feel like that affected, just knowing that there was all this destruction in Israel's response, and a response is justified? But knowing that there was all this destruction going on, like right over there, like, to your west, southwest perhaps, did that affect you and your peers, your buddies, your friend, your girlfriend? Like, how did that play out over the last year in your psyche?
Um, I will remind, yes, I will say it again. I mean, even though I was in the West Bank, I was deployed in the West Bank, I am still very much attached to the northern Negev. I've lived there
Mhm.
for a lot of years, and I've learned a lot about myself living there, and I have very good connections with people from the nearest kibbutzim, people who are evacuated to this very day.
Mhm.
Um, I know there is a lot of frustration, and I know people from both sides and from both opinions, that one that says that should be a deal, one that says that should be a incomplete victory. They both have very true points, and I find myself often agreeing with both camps. Um, I really don't have a one decisive answer to what should be done, but I know that everything that we have done, we've done only because we want our families back.
Mhm.
I've
Right.
lost. I had to watch during the 7th a live video taken from a terrorist's phone inside a house of a family which I knew up close. They were taking their videos, and later I found out that they killed their firstborn daughter, and they were sitting in the corner, and their mother was trying to hold it together, and she held her son and daughter, which both were bleeding, and trying to not to stay away from shattered glass. They treated like animals, and I know that everything I do that so they will never have this kind of treatment again.
Yeah, got it.
And every time I cross the train station that has all the signs and all the faces of the Bivas family and all the rest. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's all about the hostages.
Yeah.
We just want them back home.
Yeah. Right. Regardless of whether it's that total victory side or the make a deal side, everyone wants the same thing. Right. Everyone wants them home.
Yes.
Yeah. 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 Um, when I met you a week ago, I was actually surprised. This is after the program, and you were very moved by the clear, very strong support of the American Jewish community and some others who were part of that program too. But support, outpouring, emotional support for for our Israeli sisters and brothers. And so I was surprised that you like you were have you been unaware? I'm just not in any judgmental way, but did you or were you unaware that um of the global support, so the support among global Jewry for the Jewish state?
So there is so much that can be transferred through media. I know through solid things. I know that the U.S. government funds all of the Israeli weapons, and I know it supports it in resources, and I have seen a few pro-Israeli protests, but there is only so much that can be transferred through media, and seeing it for the first time at first hand was very, very emotional for me. Hearing you sing the Tikva right after you sing the American national anthem blew me away, and I felt like home again.
I'm glad you experienced that. I really am glad you experienced that. Yeah. For sure. What, some of us, and I have not, I'm probably going in December, and maybe I get to see you there. But some of us I know on this call, including Beth Farber and some others, have been to Israel over the last year to volunteer and that sort of thing. What do you think as a Israeli, what can we here, Jews in America and throughout the diaspora, what would be most helpful to you?
Keep backing us up.
Mhm.
Make your voices heard, because there are a lot of voices being heard, and I would like to hear the voice of American Jews having our backs,
Mhm.
to knowing that we are not alone. We are strong as Israelis, but knowing that you have our back gives us so much hope and so much power to go on,
Mhm.
because a Jewish community, knowing that the Jewish communities around the world have played such an important role and are still playing such an important role in the existence of Israel, of explaining our side and telling the world that we're on the right side and we only want to have peace for both peoples, and we just want to stop, and that all we want is to live in peace. When even I remember from the time I was in mandatory service, I told myself that whatever I am doing, there somewhere in Gaza, in the West Bank, in the north, there is a family which is just like mine, which is a father, mother, sister, son, that all they want is to have a silent life.
Mhm.
And for them, I'm willing to fight.
Mm. Well,
So I think I've answered.
yes, you certainly did. Yeah, greatly appreciate that. We are with you. We here are with you there, and greatly appreciate this. Sheilot min hatzibur or lo? Do you want to take some or no? But additional questions from others?
Sure.
Okay. So if anyone has any questions for Yonatan, um, this just raise your electronic hand. I will find you, and keep the questions, because I don't know if more than a couple people do. Keep your questions short if you don't mind, and let's do it. Okay, Beth Farber.
What's my name?
Barb's.
Thank you. No, I just want to say, Yonatan, thank you. But what touched me is what last Monday when Steve and I took you around Skokie, before we went to the program, and you saw all the signs that said America stands with Israel, and you said it took you back, and it touched me because you didn't realize how much we support you, and it really hit me hard. It cut me to the core. And I'm so glad that you saw that, because obviously I think in Israel, what they show is the protesters. They don't show our support. So this isn't a question, it's just saying that how happy I am that you saw that. And just, I want you to know that, we're definitely with you, rabbis. All you guys. And I'll see you in next month when Steve and I are there.
Looking forward.
Good. Others, anyone else have anything to say? Show me a hand. Or unmute yourself and speak. Okay. Jeff Sachs, some relatives are on second deployments. It would appear to me Israel needs a larger active military force and less reliance on the reserves. What do you think?
Larger
Active military force and less reliance on the reserves, like you.
The majority of the army are reserves. There is only so much to enlist to mandatory service, and even less to combat service. The majority is reserves. I think when you say larger active military force, you mean mandatory?
I believe that is what Jeff means, yes.
No, I meant regular people. Like we used to have a large regular military in the U.S. Army. Now we're down to less than 400,000 Army soldiers. Well, at one time we were 3 million active military Army. That's around the Vietnam War. And the same thing, Israel used to have a larger regular military also, regular full-time people. And now you're reliant on the reserves. And like you said, it takes you away from your business and your home life. And yes, if you're needed in an emergency, but my gosh, the economy must be really having a hard time. Anyway, that's what I was referring to.
So what I know is that there's a mandatory service and then a reserve service. There are people that continue, that sign up to become commanders or continue in their own jobs, but they're still under the system of, they're still under the mandatory system. I'll call it like this. There has been a lot of attempts, and it's still being made to encourage enlisting to combat units. I can say for my service, I received a big grant when I was discharged, and I received a lot of state aid from the state, from the college I wanted to go in, and other things I wanted to do. But for the most time, I think for the history of Israel, it really relied on reserve forces. Actually,
Okay.
relied on reserve service more than mandatory.
Okay, thank you for that. Judy Arkin?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Yonatan, for being here. I met you at the program last week. I was registering people and Beth introduced me to you. So I was wondering if you have any comment about the controversy of the ultra-Orthodox men being drafted into the IDF. Thank you.
Yes, I know that it is a big problem. I will say both my parents are secular, and they grew up in religious lives. They are the only one in their families who became secular, and the rest are very religious. I can say from me, the common man's perspective, that it has been creating questions in the area of the Orthodox community. My cousin from my mother's side, also her husband, recently, she told me that he is in talks of enlisting to the intelligence, and it has been creating a talks between people in the Orthodox community. I think that whatever solution might come, it won't be instant. They won't leave whatever they have and start serving. But I think, and I believe, that the army can create an environment which they can also protect. It will take a lot of goodwill from both sides, and it takes faith.
Faith is helpful in a lot of things. Thank you, Judy. Harvey Mantel, you have a question?
Oh, actually, I just wanted to thank you very much for your, very enlightening and in-depth personal talk, and reiterate how important it is to us here in the United States as Jews, and actually there are a lot of Christians supporting you as well, and it's just an honor and a privilege to have been able to tune into at least most of your talk, and just to thank you again and reiterate that you have great deal of support here in the United States.
Thank you, Harvey.
We know that your community is, that you guys are supporting us as well as the heavy load you're carrying supporting Israel.
Thank you, Harvey. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, and thank you as well.
God bless you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. Well, I think that's actually a good, it's been about an hour. I don't see any other hands raised, and that's a nice way to end it, our conversation. Yonatan, I'll reiterate what Harvey said, very personal. You really shared from the heart. You grappled with important questions, and we're with you. And as Harvey said, God bless you. And I hope that we can have a conversation with you another time as well.
Tell me when. I would be very pleased.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Yonatan. I'm Yisrael Chai.
Israel
I'm
Chai
Israel
and
Chai.
See you in a month,
Thank you all
Yonatan.
very much.
along.
Nice shirt,
Yeah.
Yonatan.
Thank you. Thank you
Good
so
night,
much.
guys.
Good night,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Thank you, Forbes.
Bye,
Thank you,
Lato.
everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Bye,
Thank you.
Lato.
Travels home. Safe travels.
Yeah.
Be careful
Great.
tomorrow going home.
Oh, that's right. You're leaving tomorrow.
Well,
Shabbat Tova. Good.
leaving tomorrow, yeah.
I am.
Okay.
Be safe.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
God bless you.
Thank
Good
you,
night.
Yonatan. Bye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
And good morning.